This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkels. We are back in the house today.
It's been a little while.
It has been, but it's going to be a cool episode because, for one, it's our anniversary coming up.
Yeah, as we're recording this, Joni and I are celebrating our 21st anniversary.
Yes, 21 years.
It's hard to believe you put up with me for that long, or vice versa.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. Just kidding. No, it's been 21 great years, lots of curveballs and challenges in between. But hey, nothing phases us, right?
No. And then we're going to talk a lot about that today. So,
but I want to take it back a little bit because I think for our listeners that don't know who Shawn and Joni are, so Shawn and I are high school sweethearts. We've been dating since 15 years old. I remember seeing him in the halls of St. Michael's High School. He was hanging out with a popular crowd, and I was like, "Ooh, this guy is kind of cute." And he drove a nice truck, so that was a bonus, right? And I was never ever prepared for class. But Shawn was, right? And so the first day I saw him, we were actually in the same typing class together. And I was like, this is my opportunity.
You're dating us. So they don't have typing class, I don't think anymore.
Oh yeah, typing. Yeah, they don't have typing on an actual typewriter, guys. They actually do exist. Anyhow, so I go to class and I didn't have any typing paper, and so I was like, I'm gonna go ask this guy in the front if he can give me some paper. Mm-hmm. And so I did.
Notice how she sat in the back of the room, I sat in the front.
Of course, yeah. I'm looking it out. I'm trying to observe from the back of the room. So I go up to him and ask him for a sheet of paper, and he was so nervous, guys. He ended up giving me the entire ream of paper. I was like, oh, this guy's really nice. Like, he's giving me the entire pack of paper. He goes back to his desk, and then I see him come back. I'm like, oh, look at him. He's coming back to talk to me. Well, it turns out that he gave me his whole pack of paper. Like, he needed a paper for himself. So he asked me if he could borrow a piece of paper back. So that's how it all started. And hey, we're here now, 21 years, right?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that with everybody. Yeah. I was obviously such a ladies' man back in the day, so you can tell. But she made me a little nervous. But no, today I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to talk about this book and some of the principles from this book, Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson.
Eggridges.
And Joni and I got a lot from the book, and I think it was something that we needed at a certain point in our marriage, and we got a lot from it, and so we wanted to share that all with you and share some of our takeaways from the book, but also some real life examples and stories and stuff that we, after 21 years, you have some discussions and some issues in your marriage, and you got to work on them. And so, and things change and evolve, and that's probably what led to some of the needing to work on it.
Things change, things evolve over time. I mean, we're not the same people we used to be when we were 15 years old, right?
Yeah. I don't change.
Yeah, Shawn thinks he doesn't change, but you also have to be self-aware, which we talked about that in the last podcast. So, but yes, to your point, we all change, we evolve over time, and so this book, guys, if you're looking at it, it's Love and Respect. Highly recommend that you read it. I actually got into it. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, right?
So, I mean, it's so we're gonna do today's our podcast is gonna be on a relationship series celebrating our 21st anniversary, but we're gonna talk about understanding the love and respect in relationships. So even if you're not married or you're single, this still applies a lot to relationships and what every man needs and what every woman needs, and we're gonna try to keep this
understanding correct. What a man needs and what a woman needs. I mean, we all know what a man needs, right? We need two things: respect and sex. Or I should say the other, sex and respect.
Yes, put sex first, and mainly just sex, but then it. Let's
be honest.
Yeah, but no, we're gonna get into some of this. So, Joni, let's talk about some of the core messages. Why do women need love?
Well, I mean, I think that for me, especially, you know, like I'm in a position where I'm independent in my career, right? So when I go home, I want my spouse to show me love, not that you have to like pamper me and like, oh, like, you know,
You want that too, but
pet me and, you know, that kind of thing. But I think that, you know, it shows that you like love. I love to see you loving to me, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And for you personally, what does that mean, or what does that entail? Like, what is that? How do you expect me, not how I always do it, but how do you expect me to show love to you?
I think listening to me, even like when I'm venting and knowing like, you know, what's important to me. So what's important to me might not be exactly important to you, but you showing that it's important to you shows me that you love me, right? And it shows that you care about me and care for my needs, even though it might not be your hot button.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? No. And vice versa. So you can reciprocate the question. Why do I need respect?
Yeah.
Right?
Tell us why you need respect.
I think for every man, you know, I think, how do you say this? It's our podcast, so I can say whatever I want. Right? Now whether you're going to agree with it or respect it, that's different. I'm pretty, I'm trying to say this right. I'm traditional, and a lot of my beliefs is very traditional. And I grew up in a Christian home. I have Christian values, and I'm very traditional. So this might not appeal to everybody, but this is how I view things in a lot of respects. But I like to be the leader of the house. I like to lead our family. I think it's my duty as a husband and father, and my role is to lead and to protect and guide my family. And so, you know, in a lot of sense, I want to have that respect, and, you know, from my significant other, from my kids, that, hey, you know, I'm doing everything for you guys. I'm leading, and I want to be respected along the way. So that means this is going to be difficult. This is going to be hard, and I think for a lot of women. I think it's just, and this isn't always the case, and we're already jumping into this pretty deep.
This is getting deep.
I'm trying to say this correctly.
I think too.
So there's got to be a sense, and this goes even like, I think sometimes in business, we've had arguments over this in business too, but there's times where it's my duty to, as a husband, to get your opinion, get your
advice on something,
or include you in all that we do, right? Value your opinion, do all that. But in the end, like at some point, a lot of times, hey, we're in agreement, right? We're going to make a decision. We're going to do this, and we're all in agreement. We're both on the same page. Now, in those times where we disagree on something, right? And we're not
aligned on the same page, correct,
something, whether it be with our kids or life decisions, purchase decisions, whatever, business decisions. When it comes down to those times, it's a difficult conversation. But in the end, you know, it's my duty to include you, to get your opinion, get your side. We discuss it. We go back and forth. But in the end,
at the end of the day, somebody's got to make that decision. Correct. And who's going to be that decision maker?
And maybe we can compromise, and there can be compromise between the two, which is hopefully what you do when you compromise, and you end up somewhere where you both agree and make that decision. But there's got to be some kind of, and in the end, somebody's got to make a decision.
Yes.
Or we compromise at a certain decision. But in the end, where I really need to feel that respect is like, hey, I'm going to make this decision. You might not agree with it, but you're going to support me. And in the end, that's how I feel at times. I'm being respected by we're talking about mainly about you right now.
Yeah.
But and you're not going to throw it in my face. If I fall flat on my face and I make the big mistake, you're not going to say, I told you so, because that's not going to help the situation.
Right.
But you're going to, you are there to support me no matter which way I go. And if it's right, great. praise me. If I'm wrong, hey, hopefully I learn from my lesson and make a better decision next time. But you're there to support me and respect me in those decisions.
I think you're spot on there. And that's something that, I had to learn because, we've been together since we were 15, right? And so we evolve over time. And as much as I like to think that I'm not as opinionated as I used to be, right? I am. You evolve over time and you have a lot going on. And so I had to learn, okay, not everything that I say has to be a challenge, right? There's got to be a compromise. Yes, I can have my ideas and, but I have to be okay with if Shawn doesn't go with my idea, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Right. And so that's something that I've had to learn over time. And it's not easy. It really isn't. It's something that you have to constantly work on. I'm still working on it. You have to be self-aware about it and know what's really important to the other person. I think when it comes down to it, whether it's love and respect, it comes down to communication, right? It boils down to communication and being able to communicate what each other needs.
Yeah. And it's yes, and you've gotten better at that. I think at times you found it as a sign of also
I wasn't
valued.
Valued.
Yeah. So then, and when you felt those times where you weren't your opinion wasn't being heard,
right,
is how you felt at certain times, and then at the same time that would also cause you to, I think, at times not feel loved because you weren't your opinion didn't matter. You weren't feeling acknowledged at certain times.
And that's what he describes the crazy cycle in the book, right? Because I feel like I'm not loved, you feel like you're not respected, and so it's just this thing that is never ending crazy cycle that never gets better because you're not really
because usually and a good example of that, and I'm sure many of our listeners can relate, is there's times where I would feel disrespected, right? And my immature response to it would be distant, cold, angry,
oh gosh,
shut off,
not talk to you for weeks. I'm like, dude, what is come on, I just said sorry, get over it, right?
Yeah, but that's what ends up happening is I show those signs which you immediately
feeling unloved,
and
not appreciated.
So then you disrespect more, and then I feel more disrespected, and then I stop showing even more love, and that's a crazy cycle. And it's funny because we've had, after we read the book, there's times where we'll get in that pattern, and then we'll be like, hey, here the cycle goes again, and here we go again on the circle.
We actually laugh about it now because if you read the book, there's some real life examples in there. Man, that's us, right? And
then we laugh about it now. At the time when she texts me, well, here we go again on the hamster wheel. I didn't take that as I didn't laugh.
It was a dig. It was
but something I think that what we noticed too along the way, and a strategy that's helped us is there's times when, and it's not easy because there's times you just want to, if I feel disrespected at certain times, I'm like, man, I'm just gonna I'm pissed, or I just shut down and I just completely will close you off. I'll just almost ignore you. And then that really upsets Joni when she's not feeling listened to or heard or
being ignored.
But something I can do is say, hey, if I'm the bigger person, which is not always easy to do, but if you're the bigger person, you can say, hey, did I do something? Did I just do something or defend you, or did I do something that didn't show you love? Is there any way that I just demonstrate? And right away, you'll probably be like, well, yeah, you said this and I took it this way. And probably it's out of context, or maybe it was, but we can talk through it, and then same vice versa. If I throw you with a dagger and you're like, man, that was harsh or whatever, you can say, hey, did I do something to disrespect you? And usually a lot of times that will open the door to being like, yeah, you said this. And a lot of times it can diffuse a situation before you get on that crazy side.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Cause I think a lot of times before, we would, say something to each other, and whether we're shutting down and then we just let it fester in, and it just makes it worse, right? Because then
I do it again, and then
it's like anything that you say, I'm getting pissed off about, right? And so I think like if you communicate it early on, if you see it, like say something about it, and you have to be willing to, okay, like, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, let's talk about this, right? Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, you let it go on too long, and then it just gets worse.
And it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're in those moments. It's so hard. But I think, like Joni said, like if you let it fester or you don't bring it up, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And so a lot of times, you can just have that communication. You can ask if you did something to offend the other person. A lot of times it can diffuse it. There's something I was going to say. Anyways, go ahead. Do you have anything else?
No, I love that. Just being aware of it, and really communicating that early on, because really solve a lot of problems. Yeah. Because, I mean, you let it fester in, and it just gets worse.
And then the opposite side of this is, like in the book, he talks about the energizing cycle, which is the total opposite of the crazy cycle, because it's showing respect, showing love, and how that can just increase the relationship, increase the intimacy. Like all of a sudden you're feeding those emotions.
Yeah, you're connecting with each other on a much deeper level. Correct. Right? And it might feel weird at first, because like you're practicing these things, right? And you're like, oh, like this is odd. Like you've never done that before. Like, all of a sudden, like, you're looking more into it because you've never done something like that before. But you're right. I think there's an emotional just connection and deeper connection when you do.
Yeah. So let's talk about some common misunderstandings about love and respect, and then just go over some of those. What is it? What's some common misconceptions? That we have some like 10 points written down, but what was the first?
Okay, let's go through those then.
So go ahead. You got the first one.
So some common misunderstanding. Let's see. Address common. Many believe that love alone can sustain a relationship, overlooking the critical needs for respect, especially for men. So elaborate on that, Shawn.
That it's just love alone, that all you need is love. You know that song, All You Need Is Love. But that's not necessarily true. There's more, it's deeper than that. Mm-hmm. And there's love. I think there's got to be more, there's got to be action behind it. I think just being in love with somebody isn't enough to sustain the relationship. So you need, for the male, this is hard, I think, for a lot of people, or for wives. I think if you were to ask a man if he would want respect or love, I'm speaking for myself, but you can answer that yourself. I think I would choose respect over love. I would rather be respected than loved.
And I think it's...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think, people would challenge... Because I think there's also, that's one misconception too, that men only need respect, but right. Men really do also need the love as well, right? And so...
I'm not saying none or the other. I'm just saying, like, what would we rather feel from our wives, I think is because in a way you could say, well, mm-hmm. like the respect should be a sign of love as well. Mm-hmm. The next one was some think respect is inherent in relationships. However, it needs to be actively demonstrated and earned. So how do you demonstrate respect in our relationship? Give some concrete example.
How do I demonstrate respect to you?
Yeah.
I think, understanding, where you're coming from, and then also listening to you, and just, I don't know, I think there's times where, like, I know where your heart is, and I know it's in the right place, mm-hmm. right? And even though I might not agree with it, mm-hmm. knowing that where your heart is and, where you're going with it, that's, it for me, it's like, okay, like, I can respect that because I know that you're not going to put me in a position where, you know, it's going to hurt my family or hurt me. Your intentions with it all is to make it better. Does that make sense?
And that's what when I was trying to think of the point earlier, that's what it was. So I think when you're approaching the crazy cycle or energizing cycle, when you get offended, we were talking about earlier about the crazy cycle, and you get those what do you call it all the time when I set you off? What do you call it? When I like say something that
Trigger?
A trigger. Yeah. So like when I do something that triggers you or vice versa, you really have to be the bigger person and say, you know what? Are there tensions really to hurt me? Like, and some people might be in some relationships that way. Yes, that's actually the fact. But I'm talking for most of us, it's more we're triggered and then we respond in a certain way to that trigger, which is usually not the appropriate way to respond. So that's how you get on that crazy cycle.
Right.
We're going back and forth to what I was saying earlier. I might feel disrespected and I'm going to trigger back with not showing much love or disrespecting as well back. But if you would stop, and you can ask the question, hey, did I do something to offend you? But you can also just have the mental awareness to say, hey, does Joni really want to hurt me? Does she really want to make my life hell? Is she really trying to, you know, and almost all the time it's no, like that wasn't her intention. Yes, it came out wrong. Yes, it bothered me, but that was never her. She's not there to try to hurt or not show love, not show respect.
No, that's
But you got to be the bigger person again, which isn't easy. So
who's the first to apologize?
We're not going to go there. That's not on the sheet. There's a misconception.
No, but I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can be the bigger person, just apologize.
And you talked about triggers too, and I think that's something to know is like you have to know what each other's triggers are. Like what's going to upset you quickly, because then you avoid conversations that are going to, you know, trigger the other person, right? And over time, I think, again, it's, you know, evolving over time. And I think as we become different people, right, that becomes harder to know what your triggers are, because your triggers now are probably not the triggers back when we were 20 years old, right? And so just kind of relearning new things and really improving your relationships, and, you know, that alone, even if you have to go get help in counseling and talk it out, because sometimes just talking to somebody else through it, like, okay, like I need to learn new methods to help my relationship, right? Because it's different 20 years ago.
That's for sure. So there's a misconception that women only require love and emotional support, while men also deeply need love, just expressed differently. So I think that's a misconception. Like you were mentioning earlier, men also need love. It's just a different way. You might, like in our example, for example, you probably want me to just sit there and hear you talk and have a conversation with no TV, no nothing else on.
Yeah,
right?
and without you,
no phone, no nothing, right? Or to go take a bath with you or whatever, and just sit there, right, and just talk. Where I might might feel loved if she just comes and joins me on the couch and we watch a movie together, and we don't have to say 2 words to each other, but I feel loved. Where you would not feel loved in that scenario.
Yeah, totally the opposite.
There you go. There's your tip 1. What to do.
And yeah, I mean, going back to the love too. I mean, it's not just love, appreciation, right? As well. I think that goes along, but you know, showing appreciation for the woman, you know, especially, we need that.
I think some of our crazy cycles have been on where I think both parties do a lot in the relationship, and sometimes there's times where our tanks are empty and we just need, hey, I need love. I need to show that I'm appreciated for all I'm doing.
And saying that, like, my tank is empty. Like I'm running on low, like knowing that you're running on low. Oh crap. Like I need, like when you say that, I know I'm not doing my part.
Because there's been times for us, business-wise, family-wise, juggling both is a lot. And so like we might, you know, one person's handling the family affairs, which is a lot of stuff, and then one's handling the business affairs. And in my mind, a lot of times I'm like, well, hey, dude, I'm carrying my load, you're carrying your load, we're just going to keep going. But you want to be like told, hey, thank you for doing this, or thank you for, and vice versa, me too. And I will. So that's one way I feel respected. is I really want Joni to acknowledge that, hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you for handling that. Thank you for allowing me to just show up at any occasion that I want, and everything's there. The car's there, the hotel's there, everything's like, wow.
I'm like, how did this happen? You did that? Well, thank you for doing that.
So I want to be appreciated that, hey, yeah, I put all this together and things don't just magically appear, right?
Yeah, and I want to talk about that for a second, because I think when you're entrepreneurs and you work together, you know, that's a whole different ballgame, right? I mean, it just makes it even more complicated because we are busy. We have things going on at the office, and when you go home, like, the last thing you want to do is you just, like, I know you just want to, you know, go watch your show, and I want to go work out or for a walk, right? Yeah. But you know, the reality is that when you go home, you still have to spend time together, and you have to connect somehow. And so making sure that you take that time for yourself, date nights and, you know, stuff like that, to really connect, because being an entrepreneur is not easy.
I agree 100%. Don't start a business together if you're.
Most people are like, I don't really understand how you guys work together and live together and still be married this long. Yeah, it's not for everybody.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
But the next one was respect is often confused with submission. That's that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be. It's
you do this.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. So respect is often confused with submission. And that's where I think it's, especially in today's culture, it gets very misconstrued. So respect involves value in each other's opinions and feelings, not just compliance.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge one, because I think that's what I was trying to get across earlier, was that it's going to be, I want to share how my beliefs, but I under respect. This is not, I don't tell you what to do and like expect you to follow everything.
Right.
You know, that's not, there's a mutual respect. I highly respect Joni's, and and a lot of times that's all she wants from me, is to say, hey, thank you for involving me. Thank you for hearing my side of, you know, or giving my opinion. And a lot of times I go with her because she's usually right. So it's not like I'm going against it, but, you just want, you know, you just want to be heard.
Yeah, just be heard.
And sometimes it's compromise. And so this is not about, submission, and that you just have to submit to your, that's not what I'm getting.
And again, going back to, you know, knowing what the other person wants, knowing what the intentions are, and knowing your spouse's or your significant other's heart is, right? And if you know that, then those misconceptions don't come out.
Correct. Some believe that voicing needs of love and respect indicates weakness, when in fact it fosters openness and growth. So I agree that it's not it's not a sign of weakness. Remember, there's no, and I did, some of our crazy cycles have been on. I've had to tell you, right? Like, this isn't a competition. We're not competing to see who wins the war or wins the argument. Like, it's,
and we're very both of us are very competitive.
Yeah,
so that's hard in itself. But yes, we overcame that.
We're not enemies. We're wanting to get to the same destination. So, like, let's get on the same page, and get on the same, you know, values and all that. Because when that gets off, then we're like, feels like we're competing or at trying to win.
Yes,
right? And it's not. Yeah. That's never going to get you anywhere. It's going to end up very bad.
Yes,
yes. Trust me.
And I remember, so Brett, you probably remember this. Remember one of our very first episodes, actually the only episode we ever missed on Inside the Wolf's Den, was Shawn and I were arguing, and Brett in the background, he's like, hold up, time out. We're not doing this.
Yeah. We couldn't even talk to each other. So we were on the crazy cycle at that time. But, I was not showing any love, and Joni was not showing any respect. So, misunderstanding conflict as a sign of failure can lead to avoidance. Healthy conflict can actually strengthen relationships. That's true and hard at the same time.
In a that's funny, because I mean, in a relationship, and then also like in a leadership role in your organization, I see that, you know, having healthy conflict is actually good.
Yeah.
Right.
But you got to be the bigger person. You got to be able to challenge, to be able to, somebody did not agree with you. I think that's what is so hard and today, is that people, the minute you disagree with them, it's like, well, now you're my enemy. Now you're on the other side of me. It's like, it's going on in politics. But like, why can't we, healthy conflict is good to discuss it and come to resolution and meet together,
Yeah.
you know, not,
And y'all, it's not easy. It's hard. I struggled with this for years, right? Like, always wanting to be right. And I'm like, dude, like you just need to let it go. Like, let this ego go, right? Like
sometimes it's ego.
Yeah, it's ego. That's all it is ego.
Yeah. There's a belief that love and respect should be only given when received, but mutual.
Yeah,
and that
was challenging, I would say, for us, right? Because like, I should respect you regardless if you show me love. And there were times where like, well, why, like for me anyway, like why in the heck am I going to respect him if he's not showing me love, right? And you're not getting anywhere that way.
Correct. So I think this, if we can give you any advice, this like, so we need to like repeat this again, that, hey, that you should show us. Then it's hard again, is what everything we're doing is hard in relationship because there's so much emotion, but you should be the bigger person, and regardless of whether it's being received or not, you should always be giving it, because if you do it enough, it will flip the table.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
it may not, but you have to know that, hey, like you did what you could, and if you're still not getting the love, then maybe, I don't know. Sorry, I can't help you there, but you have to keep doing your part.
So just because trust this from us, like we've been on the crazy cycle and like I can't get off of it. This is just, we just keep doing it, and it's because neither one of us wanted to. We were only going to give if we were received.
Right.
And the other person had to give first before we get.
Exactly.
Like, you're never going to win. You're always going to be in this cycle.
I mean, that's a life lesson right there too, not just a relationship lesson, right? Because you can't just take, right?
But you want it first is the big thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you do it first and then I'll do it. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like I'll believe it when I see it, or it's all that same concept. But if you can be the first one because that goes back to what we talked about earlier, like neither one of us really want to hurt each other, and we want
knowing
to
what
be
your
in a
intentions
loving
are.
and good relationship. So then why can't, who cares if I do it first or you do it first? Like, we want to get to the same results, right? And so it shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have to wait until it's received in order to give.
Save the gray hairs, guys.
Well, I'll try to tell myself that next time she disrespects me and see if I'm able to do it. So let's get some practical applications real quick so that people can have some takeaways. So what for men expressing love, I wrote down, we came up with some common things that we should do so a man can show love. So how to express love. So regularly tell your partner you love them. Compliments and words of affirmation can strengthen emotional bonds. All right.
Love that.
And this is not something that I'm great at, but learn to just. I found ways. I tried to find ways, or like to like look for triggers or openings when I can compliment. So again, you have to be aware. Sometimes it's like, yes, I love you. Yes, you look beautiful, but you don't know that unless I tell you.
Right.
And so I need to figure out ways. I look for ways to remind me to tell you, hey, I love you, or hey, some people say it should come naturally, but sometimes you need to be reminded. Spend intentional time together, engaging activities with your partner enjoys. This shows value, that you value their company. This is a big one for us because Joni wants to just, talk.
I want you to not try to fix it.
Correct.
And that's the thing too, is like men just want to go in there and just, how do I fix, I want to fix this.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to fix this. I'm asking you to listen to me.
And sometimes you'll have to start a conversation. Hey, I'm just venting. Then I know, I'm fully aware. Hey, just shut up and just listen.
Yep. And sometimes you have to say, is this something that are you venting, or are you asking for my opinion?
Correct.
Right.
Walks together is really healthy. We feel it's really helped us. It's just taking walks together. Help with chores or tasks that your partner finds stressful. Small gestures can demonstrate your love through action. You a lot of times will put the kids to bed, put the dog down, all that stuff before that's just a nice gesture that you do. Getting breakfast in the morning, it's a gesture you do to show love.
Yeah, and appreciating the little things, right?
Right. Offer hugs, kisses, and cuddles. Physical touch can enhance feeling the love and connection. So this is another big one. So
I love hugs.
When I'm not showing love, or I won't even when I'm not showing love and I feel disrespected, I will not.
He won't even look at you.
So Joni wants a kiss and all that, and I'm like not even looking at it. Practice active listening. Show genuine interest in your partner's thoughts and feelings without interrupting. So it goes back to, again, about what we talked about, just open communication, listening, hearing them out, and not always giving advice or your opinion, because that's usually not what they want unless they ask.
Agreed.
So for your side, Joni, let's talk about
for women, expressing respect. So acknowledge your partner's efforts and achievements, right? Compliment their skills and contributions, whether at work or at home.
So we talked about this earlier, right?
Yes.
Just like when you show up for everything in life, and
like Shawn is all about the planning, right? Like I am terrible at that, guys. I'm absolutely terrible, but Shawn is great at it, and I want him to know that you're really good at that. Thank you for doing that, because I couldn't do that, right? So just showing that appreciation.
Yeah.
And encourage your partner's interest and hobbies. Show your respect, their individuality and personal space. This next one, involve your partner in decision making. Asking for their input shows you value their perspective. And we talked a lot about that, where getting our opinion, but also
you're doing it.
Vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And so that's extremely important. Frame feedback constructively. Focus on the I statements to express feelings without placing blame. So the I statement, those actually really helped us, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling this way. I feel this way because, right?
Yeah.
It sounds weird at first, but it actually does really help. Regularly express gratitude for your partner's actions and qualities. This reinforces their sense of worth. And discuss the importance of communication in meeting each other's needs. That's extremely important. I think, if anything, that's kind of our strong point is communication throughout these years. Like, you have to be willing to communicate, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? It might be uncomfortable at times, but communication is key there. Yeah. And role-playing scenarios to illustrate effective communication. So, hey, we do it in sales. We do it in your relationships, right? Continuously role-playing.
Yeah. So some calls to action. I think if you haven't already, we highly recommend you read Love and Respect. I think you'll get a lot of valuable insight and a lot of good takeaways that you can apply to your marriage, and hopefully you get you off the crazy cycle and get you on the, what's it called? Enriching cycle?
Yes.
Energizing cycle, sorry.
Enriching as well.
Yeah. But I highly recommend reading the book. It's helped us a lot in our marriage and got us to 21 years.
Yes. So cheers to another 21.
Do it. Hopefully I live that long. But no, it's been awesome, and enjoyed sharing with you guys today. I hope you got some takeaways. I hope you guys got some humor out of it all. Have fun, I think, is another one, right? Just have fun through life. Marriage is already hard. Life is tough. Mm-hmm. Adulting is hard, as Brett would say. Adulting is tough. And so just, enjoy the journey, enjoy the partner you're with, and they're not your enemy. We're on the same page, and we're trying to get to the same destination. So have a great week, and we'll see you all next week.
See you, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.